Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and I'm joined by Mike Jones, who doesn't, I don't think he's made of GMO at all. Are you, Mike?
Uh, I might be as much as 50% GMO. I have no idea.
Are
You
you a
know,
genetically modified organism?
well, you know what? There's a case to be made that actually I am, and that everybody is to some degree
You are what you eat.
genetically modified. Or listen, my mother and father got together. Bingo. You're modifying the genome right there.
Yes,
Don't you
but
think
you
so?
don't have any North Sea flounder in you, as far as I know.
Oh,
Well, you might have had
okay.
that for dinner. Yes.
Well, and I'm glad that you opened with that because there are a number of GMO myths. Okay. One of them is that fish genes or any other animal genes are being used in, other agricultural crops. Not true. There are no fish gene tomatoes. There are no, rats in lettuce, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, according to
That's
Cheryl Walker, well, that's another argument altogether with her.
yes.
You're in favor of rats
There may be
argument.
rats in the lettuce because you don't care enough to have voted for the junk ordinances. But
All
yes.
right. So what we're going to find tonight is we're going to play some videos from some people who are very strongly against GMO products,
Mhm.
and then Mike is going to play the opposite point of view because he earlier today drank the GMO Kool-Aid.
Oh, I didn't know I was going to do that. I can do that.
Oh, yes, he
I
can.
didn't pick
We're not
out
going to do
parts of it. I was just going to talk about it
He
because,
did now, yeah.
that's, copyrighted material will probably get flagged from,
No,
eh,
and we don't do that. Okay, we
eh,
didn't do it at the high school. We're not doing it here. But just before we start and play back for you some of these videos, and nobody get all super excited one way or another, I've offered a chance to the folks. There's a husband and wife that are involved in farming that have decided to sue the county because they don't like the fact that we all voted. I mean, a majority of people voted in favor
mhm.
of banning GMO products in our area. I did talk with the wife. She was very pleasant. I said, please get back in touch with me or have somebody get back in touch with me because we'd very much like to show both points of view. We did that with the guys with Oath Keepers. I know there were some people on both sides that weren't very happy, but we played them
Yes.
both. I mean,
And listen, there isn't any question of all of the topics that we've probably ever discussed on this show. GMO is a lightning rod, and probably more so than anything that we've ever spoken about on this program.
I don't know, the miners out at that Sugar Pine mine. That was pretty hot stuff.
Yeah,
But
I know, but I'll tell you what, I would be willing to bet that the number of people who voted no on for no GMOs in Josephine County exceeds the number of people that even know anything about Sugar Pine Mine.
that's probably true.
Yeah.
There are people in this county who say there's gold mines in this area.
Yes. Right. Yeah. They don't know. And why would they? It's not happening in front of their house or, I mean, in fact, it's happening in such, little postage stamp locations. It's almost,
Well, if you talk with Dave Strahan, you would think it was happening in his
yes,
house. Yes.
right. Exactly.
He was the guy that was out in front of the courthouse organizing a press conference they were all upset that there are armed people in our community. There's probably more than you know, Dave. And they were
Yes.
very upset. And then we didn't even get a chance with anybody was asking any questions at this press conference. Well, we're not going to answer any questions at a press conference. Okay. Speaking of the press, I just thought I would point out with amusement, because that's what we do is we play back videotapes or maybe we look at headlines or whatever and we laugh about them. Here is the front page of this weekend's weekly Courier. Oh, sorry, monthly Courier. No, what is it? It's a daily Courier.
Semi-daily.
Yes. Right. And Mike, you'll be happy to know some of the facts look like they came from us, but who knows that the Courier is only 2 weeks behind us, a little over 2 weeks behind us in the story that we shared with everybody, Wild and Scenic Expansion for the Rogue. Do you remember when we did that a little over 2 weeks ago? Well, the Courier's finally just about caught up.
Yes. I don't understand. I guess they're just so backed up with stuff that is very, very important to have, on the front page of the paper, that they can't really get around to covering the news in a timely fashion.
Dog licks ice cream cone. Yeah, I know. Well, the thing was that the other thing that we did, which is different than everybody else, is that we went to the meetings and we put up what the people had to say about this, how strongly they felt about it. Of course, we put up intelligent comments from the, well, that doesn't, for the county commissioners, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but you know what I mean. Of course, we put those up, but we also put at length, ad nauseum, the notices and the advice that the citizens try to give to the county commissioners about this kind of thing. Please take action, even if it's symbolic. Right. So anyway, the Courier's finally caught on to a local story, which is amazing. Now, a second part that's in the Courier is called Deer Devour Hemp Crops from Murphy Area Farm. Oh no.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that.
And so it's just something like of I don't know, I can't read the number, they're so small, but of like 11 million billion crops, there's like 3 left or something. You can look up the numbers. It's, if you want to pay for such a thing, 75 cents. But anyway, most of them were gone. And here's a picture of a forlorn a guy wandering around looking at crops that have been eaten by deer.
Yes, he was wanting to make some rope, and now all he can do is make some twine.
Okay,
that's
now I'm gonna put Mike on the spot, and he loves it when I do this. But and if Mike can't, that's cool. I totally understand, because most people can't. Who were the partners? There were 6 partners. 6 partners.
I probably can't name all 6. I do know that Cheryl Walker, Simon Hare, Jim Frick, Kit Doyle.
Good.
Let's
Cheryl's
see
husband.
Here. Yeah. Oh, Cheryl's husband. Okay. And then who's the guy? There's a guy
picture,
that
Cliff Thomason.
Cliff Thomason. Those are the ones I know of. What is that?
Okay.
5?
So here's the awful, horrible thing. 6. Here's the awful, horrible thing that I did at a county commissioners meeting. That's just totally unforgivable. I had to be asked to sit down. I might be carted out of the room. I got up and I started to recite a list. A list of names. One would think if you got up and you said, let's see, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan. Oh, stop! Sit down! You cannot list names in this room. Yes. So I started to list the names. I didn't even get to the point. I started to read a list of names, from my head, of the partners. I didn't even say that this is a. I didn't get a chance. And as soon as he heard me starting to say this list, Keith Heck wanted me to sit down. Really, now what you can't do is you can't mention a list of names. What was the name where he stopped me and was very upset? Do you remember?
Oh, gee, many Christmas. Some of us are real,
yes, policy.
Die-hard Dale Matthews groupies. Unfortunately, I cannot recite that chapter and verse for you tonight.
The name
Dale will have to tell us.
Was Jim Frick.
Oh, okay.
Jim Frick, the guy that had said about the manor development thing out at the airport, that questioning all that was making him feel like he ought to move to Idaho because this is horrible, just to question the whole thing that had been completely vetted by Larry Graves out at the airport, and that we were, what are we? I'm sorry, I'm doing it to him again. I apologize. We're nervous Nancy's.
Oh, yes.
We're nervous Nancy's for even asking questions.
I wasn't paying attention at all.
Yeah, well, you weren't at that. Yes. And we talked about it afterwards. I said, I think he's referring to us as homosexuals. Nervous Nancy's. Yes. Nancy boys is a phrase that the British use.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, prancing, whatever. Anyway, and Jim probably knows some of these people in the real estate industry, and you know who I'm talking about. So that's okay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but, I mean, even gay people talk about folks who are acting maybe a little overly effeminate in front of them, but, that blows in both directions. No, that doesn't sound right. Shut up. Okay, look, here's the point. The Courier listed all members of Orhimco except one. Jim Moore never got around to mentioning one person.
Jim Furyk?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's
hilarious.
Yeah. Well,
why is everybody so upset about Jim Furyk being involved? I mean, I always thought he was a kind of a nice guy. Turns out not. I mean, really, he was going over the top on this whole thing about a couple different things. But why would they not mention him? Or even if he's no longer, maybe as of Friday, he's no longer a member, wants to get out of it. You just had it up to here with deer or whatever. You're not going to mention him at all in the article, really?
Yeah, I don't know. Boy, that is really something. They didn't think, hey, maybe we ought to put up some fences around this stuff. I mean, I think that if you're growing any crop that's attractive to wildlife, they would think about putting a fence up.
Yeah, it does.
I wonder if they had crop insurance.
Yeah. Now, see, there's Mike. And just even more conspiracy theory is maybe they were afraid if they put a fence up around it, that they'd be accused of fencing hemp.
Yeah. Okay. Wah, wah.
Okay. Well, what do you want from me? I'm not paid. I don't have a staff.
Yes. Hey, Jon Stewart had like 15 writers. We have 2.
Right.
1 and 1.
That's right.
So that's the quality of entertainment you're getting from this program.
And look, a musical accompaniment. All right. Shut up now, Dale. All right. So what I discovered the other day was that there's this couple had decided to sue the county. It was kind of a big deal in the county. They really are risk adverse when it comes to suing. By the way, everybody, they're risk adverse when it comes to suing. They're paranoid about this. They're not the only ones. And so I'm looking further into it. And then I hear that there's going to be some kind of gathering by the anti-GMO people because it was a little over a year ago that they won this vote that Josephine County is one of the few in the country that decided to completely ban genetically modified organisms from growing here. And there were a group of people, that's their logo, GMO free Josephine County, over my shoulder. And so they decided to have a celebration because there was a 1-year period where it had to be phased in, or however you put that. And so the 1-year period was over on, I want to be sure I've got this right, on Friday the 4th.
So these people that want to grow, that are talking about suing the county and want to grow some GMO products, that complaint and this gathering that you're speaking of, have nothing to do with one another. One did not precipitate the other then, right?
No, it didn't precipitate it, no, but it's an interesting timing thing. And of course the timing makes sense because now the waiting period's over. And so these folks, the husband and wife team, and they say others, they're suing with their lawyer. They're suing the county saying you can't do this. It's against the law and this, that, and the other thing. And there's always this states' rights versus federalism, county law versus state law, etc. And so
does this situation with the GMO that they're talking about, does it get to a state versus federal situation, or
see, I don't
or what's
know.
their claim?
We don't have all the data in front of us yet. we're going to get it, and we're going to share it with you as it evolves, which is why I wanted the people to come on the dang show, or at least talk to us someplace, so that we could get the other side. So what you're going to see tonight will be videos that we've already posted of several people who were celebrating. They were happy. They were delighted to share the details with us. I'm happy to bring you that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this show or Mike or anybody is taking a stand on the idea of, well, we're totally with you. We're trying to show all sides of these things. Isn't that the right thing to do? Hello, Courier. Isn't that the right thing to do? They don't know.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to play for you. The first one is Mary Middleton, and she is the organizer, the main organizer, the top person that founded, I believe, GMO-free Josephine County. Mike?
My name is Mary Middleton, and I'm the Director of Oregonians for Safe Farms and Families. And that is the committee that was formed to help pass Measure 1758, which most of you will recall, passed with 58.6% of the vote in May of 2014. The election was certified, and then there was a 90-day wait period, which is part of the Josephine County Charter, and then there was a year phase-out period. That period ended today. So this event tonight is about proudly declaring a GMO-free zone in Josephine County. I'm very, very proud to have been a part of this. There are only 9 GMO-free zones in the United States. Yeah. So, so we're very proud. Farmers are going to come. Business supporters are going to come. The community is invited to this free event that we're having. And we're going to have a little ribbon cutting to open the GMO-free zone. And we're also going to be creating, you can't quite see it, but maybe you'll get a picture later, these beautiful GMO-free zone signs. And we're hoping that people will, know that many people will take them home and hang them on their front porch, hang them on their entrance to their farm, and join with us in standing in solidarity. Yesterday at 5:03 p.m., there were some papers filed with the county, suing the county for, you can look up the ordinance the claim online. I barely had time to look at it and speak with our attorneys, who've been with us since near the beginning. And they are asking for Josephine County not to enforce the measure. And we're not surprised. The threat of this has been there. So we're prepared. Our attorneys are looking over this and preparing documents to be a part of it. And, we feel very strong. And if anything, the lawsuit strengthens our resolve to stand up here in Josephine County for the will of the people. We asked the voters, do you guys want these crops here? And guess what? They said, no, we want to restrict the growth of GMO crops. So we stand with the voters, we stand with the will of the people. We're very grateful that the county commissioners and the legal counsel in the county have been also standing with the will of the people in this issue. And so that's where we're at.
Now, you know that there is obviously a controversy. What do you think is maybe the 1 or 2 things that are the best arguments for the other side? You have to know that.
I probably could quote those, but I'm not going to. And I'm not an attorney. As a trade, I'm an amateur chef and a foodie, and I'm a teacher. So I call myself a mathematician because I love mathematics, and that's how I make my bread and butter. But this issue, the GMO-free issue, the genetically engineered crop ban, that is about protecting our food and our food supply. And ordinary people here in Josephine County banded together from all walks of life. And together, we passed this measure, took it to the voters, and it passed overwhelmingly. So, I feel like I'm repeating the same things, but it's very, very simple to me. And getting into legal arguments, I'm going to leave that to the attorneys to go back and forth on that.
So what message do you want people to derive from today? What do you want them to know?
Today, be proud of the fact that we are one of only nine counties in the nation to be a GMO-free zone. That's the biggest deal. I mean, internationally, we are being watched. We're going to pursue this lawsuit, and we're going to win in court, and we're setting precedent for the nation. So I just encourage everyone to speak out and to stand with us and to remain steadfast to what we believe in.
One more question.
Yeah.
Being a mathematician, what is the potential financial future for being one of only 9 counties?
It's phenomenal, and it's has an infinite end. The economic benefits that I've spoken personally with local farmers, and especially this unique bioregion that is the Rogue Valley. You know, together Josephine and Jackson County created a GMO-free Rogue Valley, and so that further protects our farmers from contamination, from pollen drift. And here, one of the things that we do really well, and one of the things that our farmers love doing here in this area, is saving seeds and producing seeds. We have a bunch of seed producers in the valley. We're one of the top places in the nation that people go to for seeds. And so protecting our seed supply, we've already lost 90% of our heritage seeds. 90% of our heritage seeds. And so it's very, very important that we protect the integrity of our food supply and the seeds and this unique bioregion.
Okay, so look, there's a couple of things here. One is I misspoke. She's with Oregonians for Safe Farms and Families, and they were instrumental in pulling this joint project together that evening on Friday with GMO-free Josephine County. So that's who she's with. The second thing is, yeah, I know it sounds like a bunch of skateboarders are going by. You would be amazed at how much noise there was at this intersection. And so I was trying to eliminate some of that large amount of noise, especially the wind. And you may recall that was a strange day with a lot of rain that was coming and going and all.
Well, and that site is actually nowhere near as bad. If you get out on 6th Street and try to do any kind of an interview, you're going to have mostly traffic noise. So
well, you're talking
I thought it was
about,
pretty good.
Thank you. I thought maybe a little too much trouble on that, but one of the things that you were talking about earlier, that's at 6th and G. This was at 5th and H, I think. So it's not that far away. Look, she didn't want to talk about the other side on this. What anybody that's new to the show may not know is that we bite into each other and to everybody else too. I would describe it as like wolves biting each other every once in a while, even if they're sisters. So go ahead, bite away, Sister Wolf.
Well, one of the things I noticed is that, the all walks of life, again, at some point, there has to be a definition somewhere of what all walks of life are. I would just like to understand what that is, but that's neither here nor there. I think that, listen, I would not take anything away from the concerns of people that are anti-GMO. I personally don't buy into the hype. I think there's a lot of claims about GMO and what it's going to do to you and what it does to animals that it's fed to. None of that stuff is backed up with actual science. So
you can have a bunch of people. Hey, you're totally wrong.
No,
okay,
no, I can hear them right now, but it isn't, and that's the problem. If there was actual science that said that GMO feed kills pigs and causes animals to go sterile and get cancer and all that kind of stuff, they would have canned the stuff. So it doesn't show that.
They would have sold it in cans, Mike?
No, they would have stopped using it. I mean, listen, people that are in, the production of meat, they're buying feed. And if it doesn't give them the result that they want it to give them, they're not going to use it. And if half of their animals are dying off from being poisoned, they're not going to use this stuff. And in a very short period of time, it will be probably made illegal. And there's also this claim that GMO stuff is never tested. It is the most tested stuff in the food supply right now. And
now, this show would be nothing if it wasn't a little bit controversial. So, Mike, please tell us about the evil
Dale is
Monsanto.
now apologizing for my opinion. Dale, listen, it's fine. It's fine if you're a GMO guy and I'm an anti-GMO guy, or vice versa. It doesn't make any difference.
I'm not doing that. What I'm trying to say is that there's going to be people on both sides of this argument. They're going to weigh in with both feet on both of us.
I totally get it. I totally get it.
There's another side. She didn't want to talk about the other side.
Yes, bring your facts with you, because I've done a little bit of research on this, and there's a lot of fear of lawsuits because of pollen drift and stuff. Now, it's a totally legitimate fear that if you don't want GMO stuff and the guy next door is growing GMO stuff, that there's going to be pollen drift that's going to affect your crop. Absolutely legitimate. That is absolutely legitimate. And regardless of what my opinion about GMO is, the people in this county have spoken.
I totally agree with that.
And they've made it against the law. Case closed.
Absolutely.
That's all there is to that one. Sorry. I think that's ironclad. It'll be interesting to see how this suit goes. I mean, what did they think that their case is? There's an ordinance here. Do we not have a right to have an ordinance if we want one?
That's a real good question. And for those who say, well, it's sort of like this marijuana vote, do you realize that it was turned down in Josephine County? Do you realize what the vote was? What the margin was? Two, not 2%, 2 votes.
Oh, on the marijuana thing? Oh, yeah. And I think it lost too, didn't it? In this county, I believe
that
it lost.
Votes.
Yeah,
okay,
but
so
but it lost. Okay.
50-50 is really not good enough. I mean, it shouldn't come down to the last free throw of the basketball game. I get that also, but before people start saying we turned it down,
there are 2 sides to the thing, and if one side gets more votes, they win. That's how it works.
That's true. But Mike and I are both fans of the idea that whether the commissioners like it a lot, like it or not, whether the Courier likes it or not, whether you like it or not, sorry. The voters, I believe, should get to decide, which happens almost all the time, except with the city council and this grass pass city tax, where they said, and you've heard us tell you this, that the city council may just take your vote and completely revoke it. That's lovely.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, they said that in a court of law. So, Mike, one more little thing here, not a little thing, but one more thing. Tell us about the evils of Monsanto.
Well, I think that Monsanto has been made into the big evil beast, and it's everybody's favorite punching bag. But when it comes to GMO, there are a number of myths out there about Monsanto, and that Monsanto is going to sue you if you own a farm that's adjacent to another farm that's using GMO, and that there's pollen drift that comes in there and affects your crop in some way, that they are going to come and sue you. Not true. In fact, not only do they claim it on their website, but has it on their website as well. That they're not going to do that. It's not going to affect it. There is one famous case that people always cite of a canola farmer up in Canada, where they claim that their crop was GMO because of pollen drift. And what the scientists pretty well determined is that was not the case. It probably was done with improperly acquired GMO seed, because the genetics of the plant was far too GMO to have occurred from pollen drift. So that's the case on that. There's a lot. Everybody loves to hate these guys, and they're gonna say everything. And listen, maybe there's some stuff that they're doing that isn't on the up and up. And everybody hates Roundup, although everybody uses it for keeping the weeds down on their property. Everybody has problems with glycophosphate and say that it's the reason why people have celiac disease. There's no study out there that shows that. Zero. If there is one, show it to me. But everybody loves to make claims that Monsanto is killing you. Okay. As I said, everybody loves to hate GMO, and everybody loves to hate Monsanto. They're the favorite ones to hate. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have some facts to back. And everybody will go to some kook website and bring that and say, here are my facts. No, that's not real. Those aren't peer-reviewed scientific studies. I mean, listen, they do follow this stuff, because the entire genesis of genetically modified foods is, the reason why they were doing this is so that you could have more yield per acre. You'd have better quality products from a number of different standpoints. And a lot of this was done because there's a lot of places on Earth where they don't grow enough food to feed the people. And part of the motivation was to find a way to make that happen. Well, and a lot of that was done without, getting into the genetics of in the way. And I don't know much about how they mess with genetics, but we've been messing with genetics, since the beginning of time. When you start messing with the characteristics of some particular fruit or nut or whatever, to take two plants and mate them together to get almonds that are bigger, or tomatoes that are redder or pink or whatever. This has been being done for a long time, and I think the genetics modification that they're talking about here is just the next stage of that. I realize a lot of people fear it. I will watch it with some skepticism, but I'm not going to freak out about it. I think now, and Dale and I have discussed this earlier on before the program. A lot of people are concerned that, hey, they need to label this stuff. That yes. They need to make it so that we understand what's in our food. And I totally support that. And I think the market supports that too. This is the beautiful part about this. If you don't want to eat GMO, there should be a market for that. And if there's a huge market for it, then it's a very healthy market. And a lot of areas will do what we have done right here in Josephine County and say no GMO here. And the people in those areas will grow stuff, great guns, and it will be good for their economy, because there will be a large demand for their products in and outside of that area.
So am I drinking GMO sugar beets here?
I don't know. I don't know if what's in that is that it's entirely possible that the sugar, if it was made from sugar beets instead of sugar cane.
Yeah, it is made from sugar beets instead of sugar cane, and there's a whole story about that.
Yeah, there's a possibility that that's GMO. Yeah, and now that you mention that, Dale, that explains a few things.
Yes, about why I'm like, well, listen, I like Sharon Ray. Okay, I just wanted to be sure I was saying I like her. She's on Josephine County Politics. She posts things. She likes what we post. It's a variety of subjects. Sharon Ray is convinced that she's made the right decision for her own personal health, okay, and cutting GMO out of her diet. So she's going to tell you a little bit about why she's just decided to do that and the effect it's had on her life. Sharon?
My name is Sharon Ray, and I got involved with the non-GMO movement when I discovered, after about 8 years of illness, that I met somebody who had cancer, and he had gotten GMOs out of his diet and he went into remission. And I had been ill myself, diagnosed with about 5 different things, and I thought, well, I don't have cancer. Maybe if I tried taking GMOs out of my diet, I would have some kind of recovery as well. And so I did do that, and I was told by medical science that stem cells were my only hope of ever getting off of about 7 different medications. And they diagnosed me with different things, but they really didn't know what was causing the problems that I was having. So I was, my medical doctor told me if I ever got off the medications, I would be worse off than before, when I was really needing some kind of help. I would be worse off if I ever got off them. So I took it into my own hands and got all the GMOs out of my diet, and I got off all the medications. So I had a huge difference in my health when I got GMOs out of my diet.
So then, do you subscribe to the theory that you are what you eat? Are you partially genetically modified, or you're coming off of that now?
Well, once food goes in and out. So once you, I think, clean yourself out and start eating right, then you're on the mend. I did have some other issues that I was able to function without the medical prescriptions that I was on, but I was still sick. And I met a naturopath doctor, and they have a special technology where they were able to tell me exactly what the root cause was and address it through natural means. So it went hand in hand. Now, they tell this naturopath group that I work with, they tell people you must keep GMOs out of your diet and eat right in order for you to retain your health. I mean, because it is that critical. Diet is that critical to your health.
I've noticed a change in some parts of this county where people are thinking more about growing things. Obviously, some people are talking about hemp, or they're talking about marijuana, and now talking about GMO-free crops. What's happening politically and socially to our county?
I personally don't agree with smoking marijuana. I don't think it's good for you. I believe it, and from my own experience, unfortunately, I did smoke it when I was a teenager. So I understand what happens, and I don't agree with it at all. However, I know some people use the cannabis oil, for medical purposes. And if they can get some relief from that, and it does help them, and they're not getting high, then I think that that's a good thing. There are other alternative routes that you can take that I feel are better, but if for some people that's more, I don't know expense-wise what they can afford and so forth. But I don't even know how much it costs. But I know it does help some people, and I know that they've used it on like skin moles and things like that, where they come off and they didn't have to have have it cut out and things like that. I've heard those things. So I think there's probably some benefit to it. I'm not for the marijuana thing though. So
I think that's real interesting, Mike. I think it really is, and I wanted to be sure to leave that in. She asked me afterwards, did I kind of go off the topic? I don't think so, because there's a lot of people in this county. Categorizing people makes things a little easier for a lot of folks, and many people feel that, you mentioned natural medicine, and you're against GMOs. Well, you probably fall within a certain political stripe. Maybe you walk lockstep with everybody just like you. No, she doesn't.
Well, listen, I think the need for better health is going to make you cross certain boundaries. And listen, there isn't any question that if you change your diet, if you lose weight, if you, eat healthier,
And vote for the right people next time. Yeah.
And you can get off of a lot of the medication that doctors would have you take. And listen, doctors, the reason why she's saying the doctors say that you're going to be worse off, sure, if nothing else changes in your life. And a doctor, if you ask a doctor, what do I do to treat such and such? He'll go, well, there's a prescription for that. Well, if you make yourself healthier by losing weight, eating better, a number of other things, you can get off a lot of the medications that you're on and live healthier. There isn't any question about that. I don't necessarily attribute it to GMO, but she does, and that's totally her right. I think there are a lot of people in this county, even because I see their stuff on Facebook on a daily basis, where marijuana cures cancer. And they put some bogus, funky study up there that says that marijuana cures cancer. It's just completely ridiculous. There isn't any science that shows that, at least not yet. So, but they'll claim all day long and twice on Sunday that it does. So she says, well, I don't want to smoke marijuana. And she recognizes that CBDs have had some effect. And I think CBDs is probably the one situation that shows clearer than almost any of these other claims the benefits that can be derived from marijuana. And that is in these cases where people have seizure disorders and the CBD oil causes them to not have seizure disorders. It's pretty hard to argue with that, but I too, I'm just not one of these people that are going to buy into you're going to have to prove it to me.
Okay, I'm for that. And the other thing I just wanted to be sure that everybody saw is that if you think that, well, that the only people behind this are certain liberal types that I don't know what her politics are, but I wanted to know, because this is a show about politics, I wanted to know how she feels about it. How does this signify for her a change in the political climate here? And she doesn't see that it, as you said, Mike, it's an issue that crosses all kinds of lines.
I think it does.
Good.
Okay. Listen, I've seen people that are anti-GMO in both liberal and conservative. I think it crosses boundaries because you know what? There are people that they may say, well, I have some problem here, and I'm looking for this particular way to address it, and I'm taking this avenue, and part of that avenue is getting GMOs out of my diet. And you know what? Listen, if it works for them at the end of the day, I'm totally fine with it.
I don't think that the city has done itself any favors by insisting that on the sales tax, you shouldn't put in the word permanent because everyone's going to be confused. No, they're not. And I don't think that Monsanto has done themselves any favors by insisting that nobody should be informed about GMOs and products. This has hurt them. And if they were really, truly interested in the welfare of everybody and feeding the world, okay, laudable goal. Mm-hmm. These folks would say, well, they're feeding the world with poisons, okay?
Yeah, right.
But don't take a stand against something I think is pretty obvious. Look, I'm probably eating and drinking GMO products all the time, but the idea that we shouldn't tell people about it.
Oh, listen, I think we should. And I think that there needs to be a market out there that includes people that are, concerned about consuming GMOs, and others that don't care.
Well, I wanted to know what's going to happen next, because here this big movement's been put together. We've seen this before and other movements. Now, what are they going to do with all that energy? That's what I asked our next person.
My name is Melody Leva. I am with GMO Free Josephine County. I'm a board member. I'm secretary treasurer, and I also do the newsletter and websites and things like that. We're looking towards things for October, events in October that will be happening. Things like lectures by a naturopath and a scientist who knows about the ins and outs of the DNA of GMOs.
Also, let me think real quick here if I can remember. We'll also be tagging some speakers about genetically engineered trees that are being planted and taken care of here in the state of Oregon.
That's interesting.
That's just a rough idea of some of the items that we've got right now.
What will you do with the energy that's been gathered up for this? What can you do with that politically? Will there be some other kind of issue beyond GMO free that you can work on?
There's always a possibility, but at this point, I don't think I'm prepared to answer that question for you.
What is it that people should know about today and remember?
Today basically starts a new chapter for us. We have gone through the phase-out year, where those farmers who may have had crops in the ground that were genetically modified were asked to have them removed and not to do any further planting. And at this point forward, we're looking at having all of our farmers be free from the possibility of pollen drift and those kinds of things. We're looking forward to everyone being supportive of that and putting a lot of energy into it.
Now,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
We post these videos individually also so that you can see them without our comments. Okay, fine with me. Kind of hurts my feelings a little bit, but we'll get over it. Look, so that's why sometimes I might ask a question more than once, so that somebody just goes and sees one video will get a little bit more of the full story, and it's not just for this show. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that one interesting aspect to me that occurred to me while I was watching that is, how do we know when we go to the nursery, or you go to Bi-Mart or to Greenleaf or to Walmart or Home Depot, and in the beginning of the spring, and you're buying all these, vegetable seedling plants that are there. How do we know whether or not that stuff is genetically modified in any way?
Well, I tell you what I do based on what we're seeing today, what I saw Friday, is I'm going to go to Oregonians for Safe Farms and Families and ask them.
Yeah, and I would think that, since there's an ordinance now in the town that, I don't know what steps these retailers take to make sure that they're not bringing that in. However,
well, this is about cultivation and growing. This is not about selling, as far as I know.
Oh, yes, but okay, but if you're putting your garden in with somebody else's plants as opposed to starting it from seed yourself, and of course, even if you start it from seed, there's a possibility that it's genetically modified. But it's just another thing that you might want to know.
Good point.
Especially if you're living, and I don't know. I mean, what steps is the county obligated to take to enforce this?
Oh, they're going to say none, of course.
Well, and I mean, what do? Do they go around to every farm and take some sort of a sample from them to find out if their stuff's genetically modified? Seems like that would be horribly expensive.
Wouldn't you think most of this is going to play out in a court of law somewhere? And we've had some experience with that recently. Yeah,
I suspect that it will. It depends on the drive. If you have this one party and they want to grow something that's genetically modified, I have no idea what that is, by the way. Do you?
What party?
No, what is it that this party wants to? Oh, sugar beets. Oh, okay.
That's why I brought up sugar beets.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's a possibility that some people are going to do it anyway. And how are you going to know where they got their seed or where they got the plant stock to begin with? I mean, that's a tricky thing of enforcement. And if somehow the county is taken to task for not policing this properly, are they going to be obligated at great expense to create an enforcement division and then go out and do this stuff? I mean, there's a lot of interesting questions that come behind this.
I don't think that you can mention enough former legal counsel, Steve Rich. He was the one, and I'm sitting right there in a meeting, and one of their safety guys saying, well, let's talk about this treehouse place because, you know, we're supposed to be making sure that they're safe. This was right after somebody took a header off of one of their treehouse bridges. And it was a PhD, and she ended up with brain damage, as far as I recall. And Steve Rich said to the commissioners, let's not get briefed about that. What? Let's not get briefed about the potential dangers because ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
That's Steve Rich. And he is now legal counsel elsewhere, including to Gold Hill. He comes back every once in a while and helps them out. So just in case you want to know, we've got a long history with 2 decades of this guy, and that was his answer. And I'm thinking, you know, I wanted to yell it out, but you can't do that at these meetings. Hey, you have a responsibility to keep us safe, right? And he's advising the commissioners, don't be educated about this, because the more educated you are, the more liable we're likely to be, and it's better if you're ignorant.
That's what I think it is. Listen, if there's anything that we have learned over the past couple of years is that the entire job of county council is mitigate liability, head liability off, sack liability at the line of scrimmage, and do not allow that to, and he may be giving them legal advice that says you're better off not knowing this particular
they have a responsibility to keep us safe. They've got a guy that's supposed to go out and do these safety surveys and all, and that's his job. And if he's not doing his job, and they're telling him don't do your job, it's like the CFO saying, I've been ordered not to tell you whether people are repaying their loans to the county or are they following through. Well, yeah, because you could get in trouble, but you're giving out the money.
Okay, look, to add one more to the list of reasons why we all hate attorneys. You know, I mean, this is so. I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, if you want a less litigious society, become a less litigious person. You know, there's one thing I talk about this with my kid all the time. If you trip on somebody's sidewalk and you sue them, you are going to catch hell from me because we don't do that. I think that's wrong.
Well, we could advise the county commissioners to stop breaking the law and bragging about the fact I know we're breaking the law and I don't care.
Okay.
That would be a good start. Now, I like Carol Valentine too. I liked what she said, and I kind of like.
Sounds like Dale's trying to pick up some dates out of this too.
No. But, you know, I can appreciate the energy of, because we've been in, you and I have been in a number of situations where everybody around us is kind of grumpy and angry. And these people, you know, well, you know, maybe they're deceiving themselves. I don't think so. Maybe they are, but they were all pretty happy about it. This was, after all, a celebration, but we've been to celebrations where people weren't even happy about the celebration.
Well, let's all have an understanding here. I've said that my own opinion, but I also know we're living in a county. We all voted. We made a choice, and that's what the law is. So I'm going with it. And then the other thing is that, you know, everybody gets to have their own opinion. If I have a different opinion, that's just what it is. You know, and
you don't get to have a different opinion. Stop it.
Yes, right. And listen, feel free to you know, smoke a pound of marijuana to cure your cancer if that's what you think is you know, going to happen. Fine. It's let's all live together in harmony.
Oh, it'll make it much easier if we smoke, I think. Okay, yes, go ahead and play Carol Valentine on the harmonica.
My name is Carol Valentine, and I've been involved with GMO-free Josephine County since early 2013. I was very involved in the campaign to pass Measure 1758, which is now the genetically engineered plant ordinance that we're celebrating tonight. I work with a lot of volunteers for the organization, and I am here to celebrate protecting our local farms and farmers from the potential for genetic contamination by GMO crops, and to protect our water supply from the pesticides that are related to growing those GMO crops, especially the neonicotinoid pesticides that they coat the seeds with. When they plant, those pesticides get in the air and the water. So that's a problem for us and for the pollinators. Now, the people who are opposed to this ordinance are arguing that the state can really handle this issue better than having a local, they use the word patchwork. And our agricultural needs in this area may be different from another area. We are perfectly suited here to be a refugia that's free from GMO crops because we have a long, narrow, windy valley. And we feel that it would be wonderful if the state were to protect all the farmers of the state from the problems associated with genetically modified crops. They have not taken action. And so here at the local level, we have made our voices heard for our community.
Now, up north, there are some restrictions on the growing of various kinds of grasses because they say, well, this kind of grass would compete with that kind of grass. Is there a similarity here, or am I just all wrong?
I think there probably is a similarity here in that we're talking about pollen, and pollen has no boundaries. Pollen spreads through wind and water and insects and birds. We can't just say it's not a problem for your neighbor and it's not their business what you do on your property. You know, people can have property rights as long as they're not harming someone else. And then we need to work together to do what's best for our health and safety.
I have this tendency to agree with you about all of these things, but there is part of it that kind of bothers me, and the idea that, well, shouldn't someone be free to do what they want to on their own property? There's that side versus please don't damage your neighbor's crop. How do you reconcile such things?
Well, the phrase right to harm, right to farm, not to harm comes to mind when you ask that question. Yes, we have a right to farm law in this state. It's been problematic for a lot of reasons, but farmers should have a right to grow the crops that they believe will be best suited to their property as long as they are not doing damage to the environment that others depend on. So that is my view on it.
Thank you for your time. One last question. What should people remember about this day and what's been done here?
Remember that the people have power when we come together, and that it's very important to be involved in protecting what you hold dear. And we're celebrating that tonight.
Thank you for your time.
Well, I agree with everything that she said right there at the end. It is very important for us all to be informed and get together and to protect the things that we hold dear. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I meant when I was saying that also that I appreciate the fact that she was able to admit that the other side has a couple of points and not just on top of their head, and to acknowledge that, to take it on and to say, okay, you know, your rights end at the fist, you know, whatever that saying is.
Yes.
Yeah. I totally
there was a
agree with
couple
that.
of things that she said about coated seeds and necessarily that GMO and pesticides are necessarily linked. Not necessarily true. Just because you're growing GMO seed doesn't mean you're using any pesticide at all. And there are a lot of coated seeds that you can buy. I'm getting crazy into hydroponics with lettuce and tomatoes and broccoli and all kinds of stuff now. And you can buy all those seeds coated. And they're, coated with different things that aids in the germination process. And but that doesn't necessarily, and those things are not necessarily at all pesticide related.
Well, just so that you know, Mike, if you buy them uncoated, there will be no tax by the city. But if they're coated with chocolate,
yes. Yes. If I buy my seeds now, the other thing is that people, this is one of the other myths, is that people think that they have glycophosphate infused into plants where they're creating their own Roundup. That is just not true at all.
I think they would if they could, Mike.
They might, but they do have some plants that they create something that causes animals to, or that these pests to die. Yes, but that's not all GMO stuff. I mean, listen, you really have to do your homework, because once you start breaking it down, there are a lot of little categories that you have to get into. You would think that 90% of the seed and stuff that is out there is GMO. That is not true. It's a very small quantity of the stuff, and you're going to pay dearly for it because these companies have patents on that stuff, and you're only going to be able to get it through certain suppliers. You're not going to find GMO seed willy-nilly in the store in little packets of seeds. It's generally not going to happen. Now they do have Roundup resistant GMO crops. In other words, because a lot of farmers use Roundup to keep down the weeds around their crops. They want their crops to have a resistance to Roundup, so they don't have to worry as much about overspray. Personally, I don't want any Roundup on stuff that I'm going to be eating. Probably happens all the time anyway. But
why not?
There's just misconceptions about it. Listen, there are plenty of good and bad things to say about stuff that's true. We shouldn't go around making stuff up. So, and I think that, listen, there are plenty of legitimate arguments for anti-GMO people, and bring those solid arguments. Don't pick something off the internet that, some cheesy website that just says
stupid show on the internet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. You definitely don't want to take your facts from us. Do your own research, for crying out loud.
I'm going to end on a little happier note, or, kind of what we do. It's sort of sugar-coated, chocolate-coated news that we have occasionally, and that is, I was telling Mike about some family history research that I did. There he goes, Marge. I don't know what he's talking about. Just relax. I'll get to the point. And in half an hour. And there's a picture of a couple of people who purport from the past to be relatives of mine, and they were saying, "Here's John, and here's little Timmy, Hopper Dozer." Hopper Dozer? What the heck is Hopper Dozer? Is it a name of somebody? I'm thinking, we've got a
special kind of tractor.
Thank you for revealing. Yes. Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you, Mike.
What did I blow the joke or something?
Well, but you didn't know when I first told you. This is why I don't tell him anything. There were so many problems with grasshoppers wiping out entire states, and putting people out of business, and they were starving and all this, the grasshoppers would come down in these huge, they were blacking out the sun, and they would have this thing they'd pull behind the horses or behind the tractor called a hopper dozer, like a bulldozer, except a hopper dozer.
Oh, wow.
That's how far away from the past that we are. Really? And it would grind them up, I guess, and then they'd eat them for breakfast. I don't know what they did with them.
Or use them for fertilizer.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
it's the it starts off with good intentions, like many things in this life, like unions and etc. Okay, it starts off with good intentions, and it can go too far one way or not far enough in another way. And so, what you need to do is understand that there's a this thing is always swinging back and forth about trying to do the right thing to keep people well and fed and well fed, and we certainly wouldn't want to have swarms of this stuff, and this can come back. I mean, the fact that it hasn't happened over the past couple of decades doesn't mean it can't happen again. And it's not because, well, we're stronger now. No, they don't even know what caused most of that. That's what I understand from the science. They don't know why that happened, and it could come back again. So I mean, there is this idea. Well, look, I'm sure that the two commissioners and Cheryl's husband would appreciate if there was something that could shoo deer away from eating their hemp crop.
That's right. Yeah.
I just think it's a little bit funny, but I'm perverse.
Genetically modify the seed in such a way that it doesn't taste good to deer.
Well, there's enough deer, they're going to come and bite off a few pieces anyway. But is there something we can do about that with dishonest commissioners? That would be nice. They're still under investigation by the state for this whole thing. And it's this okay. Grow whatever you like, okay, but don't use your position to try to put and to say that the county has an official position to benefit your individual business. Mike, any summary statements about what we heard tonight from these folks? I'd love to hear more opinions from other people.
The only summary I have is that you know what, I have my opinions on it, obviously, but the people in this county have spoken. We're a GMO-free county. That's the way it is. And ultimately, I'll be interested to see what happens with this particular lawsuit. I think they're standing on pretty shaky ground, unless our whole initiative process is standing on shaky ground. I would hate to believe that. So I'll be watching with interest.
Speaking of shaky ground, we'll talk at some point about the Cascadia Fault. Thank you.
Yeah.